Greetings VisionLink users, and welcome to this unified productivity tutorial, Productivity with Payload. Payload monitoring is specific to payload-enabled assets. In this example, I have configured my dashboard specifically for monitoring payload assets, which will communicate information for cycle counts for the payload monitoring system, as well as the payload totals. I've arranged my icons so I can see my cycle counts for all of my assets, my payload for all of my assets, as well as my average payload for my assets. As I scroll down on my dashboard, I can see my cycle counts for my wheel loaders, specifically my payload for wheel loaders, as well as my average payload for those wheel loaders. Lastly, I've configured my cycle counts for my articulated trucks for cycles, as well as for payload and average payload. This gives me a quick snapshot of information where I can see my productivity on a daily basis compared to my week and my current month, all compared to the targets I have set. Whenever I click on these, I will be taken specifically to the payload information for these particular assets. From the Productivity tab, we can see that my screen is configured for specifically monitoring and tracking payload. Across the top bar, I can see my total cycles for the given date range, which in this example is the current week. I also see my average cycles per hour, my total estimated volume for these assets that are capable, as well as my total payload. I can also see my average idle for all of the assets in this entire list. I can configure my entire column settings by going into Settings, then hiding or showing, as well as rearranging the order of the columns in this table view. I can pin columns by clicking on this button, and I can also change the column widths for each field. I can then generate a report in either a CSV or XLS format. I can sort by any column, either in ascending or descending order. To set my targets for my payload, I can click on the assets, then go to Show or Edit Target Values. Or I can do the same thing and go to Set Costs, where I can enter the cost per payload and the cost per volume. By setting these targets, I'm going to the VisionLink administrator to set the targets for all the selected assets. I can set them for a particular date range as well as for particular days of the week. I can configure my graphs to view just payload information. All of my graphs are configurable for a date range, as well as an hourly, daily, or weekly breakdown. This gives me enhanced information based on the hours of the day, particular days, or weeks at a time. Whenever I click on this graph, I will be given a pop-up information for that selected time range, where I can see the target compared to the actuals and their net difference, as well as the actuals for that particular segment. In this case, I'm looking at the hours, any idle percentage that's reported, and the total number of assets. I can do the same when I click on Payload. All of the widgets at the bottom will display the value across the given date range, and when I click on each of them, I will see the graphical view of all of these. Unified Productivity is a great way to monitor your payload and track your productivity throughout the day, especially compared to any targets that you've set. You can always go back to the dashboard to view the summary data or use that to actively filter your information. VisionLink Unified Productivity, Productivity with Payload. Thank you very much.